A quick disclaimer before I begin. This video isn't a guide on finding your art style or a tutorial in any sense. It's a video about my own experience with these things that I hope will reach people going through the same thing. With that aside, let's get into the video. Ever since I was little, basically the moment I knew what an art style was, all I knew was that I needed one. Because every artist has to have an art style, right? Every popular artist you see, every artist you find on your For You page, they all always have art styles that people recognize them by and love. And for so many years, because of this, I thought that to be a quote-unquote real artist, you needed to have a polished and consistent art style. I've spent basically the last 5 years constantly bringing myself down, watching every how to find your art style video under the moon, and getting so frustrated and upset whenever I try to draw because I've never been able to find my art style. I would sometimes have those moments where I did 2 drawings in the same style for once and get really excited, thinking I've finally found my art style, only to hate it and have no motivation and no want to draw like that in that style the next day. Every single thing I draw has always been vastly different from the last in terms of style, and this has made me hate myself as an artist so much. For so long, I was almost constantly stuck in art block, and I couldn't even remember the last time I could just sit down and draw without getting frustrated and deleting it or scribbling over it 5 minutes or 5 seconds in. Or even the last time I could just draw and enjoy it without it making me flat out miserable and stressed. The belief that to be an artist, you have to have a recognizable art style, mixed with the fact that I was constantly trying to force myself and find my art style instead of slowing down and letting myself actually have fun with art, really affected me in my art journey a lot. Growing up, all I would ever see people saying regarding art styles were either explaining what they were or people's advice on how to find your own art style. But I never saw anyone sit down and go, hey, there are heaps of cool artists who don't have consistent or crazy unique art styles, and that doesn't make them any less of an artist. You don't need an art style to make art content or post your art. The closest I ever saw people say was, you'll find your art style eventually. Don't rush it, it might take a while, but it doesn't really matter. And while I think that is great advice too, I just think it wasn't exactly what I needed to hear. That's also not me saying no one out there has ever said anything like that. It's me saying I personally didn't really see or hear anyone saying that. It didn't help, but growing up, I always wanted to be someone who made art content and posted art videos, but I never really tried. It was always, I can do that once I get an art style and once I improve and can draw anything and can draw faster and then this and then that. And I never ended up trying to properly pursue the things I wanted to up until recently because I was always putting them off like that. It was just a constant loop of later when I'm good enough. And it was around a year ago that I actually realized I don't see anything I do or make as good enough. If I never actually try to do things, like start making art videos like this one because I'm not confident enough with my art, then I'll never end up doing it because I don't know if I'll ever be that confident with my artistic skills, no matter how much I want to be. The more you learn and grow as an artist, the more that you will see the mistakes in your pieces. That's what helps you grow. I feel like developing an art style itself is fairly simple and there's no right or wrong way to go about it. Something I had trouble understanding was, it's not do this and you get an art style. And it really is just drawing whatever you want, trying out new styles and new things in your art, and finding the aspects you loved and enjoyed doing the most, then just putting them all together. One of the biggest things, honestly, was just learning to not care about art styles. After all of that burnout was happening because when I did draw, I was so focused on having the outcome of an art style instead of being focused on drawing things I liked and just drawing to have fun. It wasn't until I actually made peace with the fact that I had a very inconsistent art style that art block started going away. And that really started when I was complaining about it to a friend, and she told me that I did have a style, that when you looked at my art, you could tell it was mine, even when lots of parts were different, and even when it wasn't consistent. That was probably when I realized that so many people desperately looking for their art style probably do have one, whether or not it wildly varies and is constantly changing, even if they don't like it or they don't recognize it. And that there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Drawing with the thought of an art style, with the thought of the final product in mind, is something that can hold you back from just drawing for the sake of drawing, enjoying the process. For a while, I've only just started to warm up with doing that, and I definitely have a long way to go, especially when it comes to being okay with drawing things that don't meet my own perfect expectations. But seriously, It makes things so much more fun. I finally started to enjoy drawing again, and my struggle with motivation that I've had for so many years, it's suddenly so much better. Sometimes I'll even be left feeling motivated after finishing a drawing instead of drained. And I know that wanting to find an art style and struggling with perfectionism in art are different things, but I actually think they overlap quite a bit. If you want to find your art style, I think that you need to make ugly art. I think that not stressing over art, not putting on expectations to find a style, to just draw any certain thing, taking away those restraints is actually something that will really help you develop your style. Of course, I'm not saying that there aren't other great tips, tricks, and studies and exercises that you can use to find your style. You can and should. Learn and try out as many different things and ways to find your art style as you want. Just remember to have fun with what you're doing and not to let yourself stress over it. At the end of the day, this was something that was a massive change and help to me. My style is still constantly changing, but instead of hating the inconsistency, I'm learning to be excited that I'm constantly changing and growing in my art, and you should too, because that's why it changes so often. You're learning and growing with every piece you make, finding new inspirations and things you want to try with every drawing, even if it's subconsciously. If an inconsistent art style is something you struggle with as well, then I really encourage you to stop viewing that as something so negative or something that needs to be fixed. You're a growing and learning artist and constantly improving. That's nothing to be ashamed of, and it never will be. Don't fear changing your art. You're learning and you're growing. In fact, I think that's a really cool thing, and honestly really exciting. You can see so many improvements just looking back through art that was made back to back. You can see what stuck and what didn't. Honestly, I think learning to view it as a positive thing is what makes a big difference, because your mindset is so important to basically anything and everything. As corny as it might sound to some people, the way you think is a lot more powerful than you might realize. It's also so much more freeing, not trying to confine yourself to one style and letting yourself be as inconsistent as you want. I think that's what does make an art style, because it allows you to try so many new things when you see someone else's art, or something else that inspires you to try something different again. At the end of the day, I'm far from a professional, and I am just a guy online. What I say and my experience may not relate to yours at all, and that's more than okay. Everybody is different, and so are their personal art journeys. There are no rules in art. With that aside, I really hope that this video can be helpful, or even just provide a new view on the situation for someone. Thank you so much for watching the video and staying this far. This is one of my first videos, and I have a bunch of things planned and things that I'm currently working on right now for the channel, which I'm very excited for. So if you have any interest in speed paints, art commentary both about art and random things, possible OC or fandom content, or even animation memes, you should definitely consider sticking around. Subscribing seriously means so much to me, and it really helps me start out my channel a lot. As well as that, my videos should be hopefully improving every time I make and post one as I get more used to content creation. I'm also very sorry if this was all over the place or awkward. I'm not overly experienced in recording myself speaking, and my thoughts are always jumping everywhere, so I tend to switch back and forth a lot without realizing. If there are any things you'd like to hear someone talk about, the topics you want to hear about in the background as you draw, or general videos you want me to make, never hesitate to comment them. I'm always looking for new ideas and trying to figure out what people would like to enjoy and see from me the most. Don't forget to be kind to yourself and spread a little joy today. And I'll see you in the next video.